Thank you very much, guys. And give me a second just to make sure I know how to use the slide. But we've heard some amazing talks, and I'm super excited to be here. This is the end of a road, of a journey, and the beginning of a new adventure. Africa wins with Bitcoin. Africa wins with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin wins with Africa. Africa wins with Bitcoin's help, and Bitcoin wins with Africa's help. Now, I'm going to repeat that one more time, because if there's nothing else you get from the next 10 minutes, it's this: that Africa only wins with Bitcoin's help. And Bitcoin only wins with Africa's help. Let me explain why. Now, in 2008, Bitcoin was conceived. And it was basically ignored unless you were a cypherpunk or a libertarian or a geek like me. You basically didn't pay attention. And this persisted for a number of years until 2013, when an exchange called Mt. Gox, which was the biggest exchange at the time, imploded, exploded, depending on how you describe it, and a number of exchanges came in to fill the gap. My exchange was one of those. And for the next number of years, Bitcoin was laughed at. It was ridiculed. I remember very clearly going to a meeting in the City of London with a number of traditional financiers and literally being laughed out of the room. And I can tell you that was very, very embarrassing at the time. And this persisted because we were crazy crypto Bitcoin people until 2018. Now, basically a year earlier, 2017, we saw another run up in the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin nearly got to $20,000 or so, $19,000. And then the following year, it collapsed in price, a bit like what's happening right now. And contrary to popular belief, Bitcoin didn't die. In fact, the energy in the Bitcoin community only increased. We put our heads down, we got to work, and we built. And this is when the establishment, the traditional financial community, realized that this was a credible threat to their status quo. And that is when the fight, that is when the battle began. Now, Bitcoin is an idea, and as an idea, you cannot fight that with guns and missiles. You can only fight that with two things: extreme misinformation and unreasonable regulation. And that is what happened, and that is what's happening. In fact, for several years, I have predicted that in 2023, we will see a crescendo of misinformation and regulation. Now, Bitcoin can lose this battle. It can lose this battle. But with the help of the global south, with the help of regions living under the yoke of authoritative regimes and dictatorships, and with the help of Africa and Africans, Bitcoin can and will win. Now, in this war, Bitcoin is our defender. Now, I'm into superhero movies like The Next Man, So you can think of it as T'Challa, our Black Panther. It is incredible. It's meritocratic money, it's censorship resistant, it provides self-sovereignty. But it cannot do it alone. It's not fast enough, it can be expensive to send transactions at times. It doesn't, at the base layer, allow the extensibility you need, and although it improves privacy, there is still more that can be done. So it needs tools, it needs weapons to help it win this war. Now, the first weapon is Lightning. Lightning is Bitcoin's sword. It provides lightning-fast transactions at incredibly low cost, and it can improve privacy, and with upcoming innovations like Taro, it can improve extensibility as well. But Bitcoin needs more than that. It needs a shield. It needs something that can provide low-cost, incredibly simple custody, provide extensibility to be able to support the financial services of the future, and above all, it provides incredible privacy. Because without privacy, you do not have financial freedom. Now, self-custody is Bitcoin's shield. If you can do it. The problem is, after 8 years of running an exchange and literally begging customers to self-custody, I came to the conclusion that maybe we can get 2%, maybe we can get 5%, maybe even 10% of people to self-custody, but you're not going to get the vast majority of people to self-custody. And there was 3 reasons why. Reason number 1, it was too expensive. If you have to pay $50 to $150 for a hardware wallet, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people will not be able to afford that. The second reason is technical complexity. Now, this is getting better all the time, but it has not been and is unlikely to be easier than the alternatives. And finally, it's psychological fear. What are you going to do if you've forgotten your password or if the password is lost? What are you going to do if your seed dies with you? You die, and how would it be covered? For these reasons and others, the vast majority of people are not going to be able to self-custody. So what do we do for the other 90 to 90 or more percent? Well, I can tell you that centralized custody is not Bitcoin's shield. Now, yes, it is incredibly easy to use. It provides extensibility, and for some cases, including the people who we see here and based here, for example, BitNob, Strike, Block, and more, custody can be secure. But if you give your money to an exchange, to a stranger, somewhere on the other side of the world, maybe in the Bahamas, for example, and ask them to look after your money and they're incentivized to earn your money, maybe it will not end well. We've seen it in 2013 with Mt. Gox. A number of years later, we saw it with Quadriga CX, and now we are seeing it with FTX, BlockFi, and potentially more. So Bitcoin, centralized custody is not your shield. So what is our shield? Well, our shield, for the majority, is FEDI Mint. And more specifically, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of FEDI Mint communities around the world. Now, FEDI Mint is open source community custody run by trusted members of the community with privacy, lightning integration, and extensibility baked in, run on behalf of the community. So, on one side you have self-custody, which is do-it-yourself custody, which if you can do it, you should do. On the other side, you have third-party stranger custody. And with FEDI Mint, you have custody built by the community, run by members of the community, and run for the community. Now, for this to work, we need to show something, though. We need to show proof of community. You see, in the West, in North America, in Europe, I'm often asked questions like, well, can I trust my son? Can I trust my mother? Can I trust my friend? Can I trust my neighbor? The idea of trusting members of a community is almost alien. And this is where the global South, people living under the yoke of authoritarian regimes and dictatorships, and Africa and Africans can lead the way. We have for years, for decades, for centuries, been innovating in the space of community financial custody. We have village and savings and loan schemes, we have cooperatives, we have SACCOs from Kenya all the way through to Senegal. We can show the Bitcoin community and the world at large that community custody can work, and therefore Bitcoin can have its shield and win this battle. For as long as I have been predicting that Bitcoin will win in 2023, I have been making another prediction. That Africa will lead the way. Africa will lead the way. And why? Because no other continent has the energy, the drive, the innovation, the inventiveness, the experience, the energy, the passion that Africa has. But it's more than that. It's not just why we will succeed, it's why we deserve to succeed. Now, to answer that question, I will invoke my late father. He used to tell me and my brother, my younger brother, a number of sayings. I mean, and anybody who has African parents knows they always have metaphors and sayings for every occasion. And this was one of them. And it was based on a saying from a Dr. James Agre, which is one of the famous children's sons of Ghana, where we all have the honor of being today. And so I'd like to reprise that saying to answer this question. With a little bit of artistic license, if I may. I am an African. I am an African. Only the best is good enough for an African. And Bitcoin, with lightning as its sword and FEDI Mint as its shield, is the best. Thank you.